What's going on YouTube? Jake Cameo here from CoreGaming and welcome back. Today we are going to discuss and go over a deck profile for Timelords. Alright, so with the ban list coming out probably the day this video drops, I decided to go ahead and do this particular deck list just because this is something that's not insanely in meta. You're probably not going to see anything of this on the ban list. If it already is and I just overlooked it, my apologies. I'll make another one and correct it or something. But I'm pretty sure none of this is on the ban list. So yeah, we will get into more meta-driven or anti-meta driven things in the future, but as far as this video, this is going to be all about the Timelords and how well they could actually do as far as even the January to April. I'm foreseeing this deck being able to be played pretty well, maybe not winning, but pretty well for the next few months. So I'm definitely going to look more into this deck myself even. But with that being said, let's go ahead and get into the profile. So to start off, we've got 3 Time Maiden. There's a lot of 3-ofs in this deck. There's a lot of monsters in this deck, but for very good reason. This is going to be your main searcher of the deck. And to be honest, you really don't care too much about being ashed or anything like that. Because she's already going to the graveyard and so on and so forth. The only thing that could really hinder you with this particular one is maybe Called by the Grave. So while she's very good and very useful, it's not super necessary that you get her effect off, which is great, because more than likely you're going to have some of the cards that you would search out with her in your hand anyway. So but she's definitely one of the best cards in the deck. She's your searcher, like I said. All the cards in here are pretty much going to have 0 attack, 0 defense. She's a 1-star, so you can search her out for 1/1 with 1/1 and things like that. But her effect is, if you control no monsters, you can special summon this card from your hand. This card can be treated as 2 tributes for the tribute summon of a Time Lord monster. So if you wanted to just go ahead and tribute summon a monster, you could tribute summon this card. She special summons herself, which makes it really great. You can tribute this card, add 1 Time Lord with 0 attack from your deck to your hand, which is really great. That's how you get some of your combos going. So you special summon her and then tribute her off for that effect. And she also has the effect of, when she's in the graveyard, you can banish her and special summon a Time Lord from your deck, ignoring its summoning conditions to the field, but it also has to have 0 attack. So very good, very useful card. And then I run 1 Michion at the moment. I definitely want to get more because he's such a clutch card. I'm definitely going to run him at least 2, possibly 3. But Michion himself is probably my favorite of the cards. His effect is, and this reads for all of them pretty much, cannot be special summoned from the deck. If you control no monsters, you can normal summon this card without tributing. Cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects. You take no battle damage from attacks involving this card. At the end of the battle phase, if this card battled, half your opponent's life points. Once per turn during your standby phase, shuffle this card into the deck. So they're all going to read the same way except for that particular one where if he battles, you half your opponent's life points. That's so good, so incredibly good. But that's why he's my favorite, to be honest, just because he can half your life points and get you that much closer to victory in a single turn. It's so amazing. So he's very, very good, and I definitely recommend playing some of him. But like I said, at the moment I only have 1. So this is going to be a sort of progression video. There will be another one when the deck is fully completed. It's for now 1 Michion. And then 1 Hale, the Time Lord. His ability is blah blah blah. If your opponent's life points At the end of the battle phase, if this card battled, if your opponent's life points are lower than your opponent's life points, inflict damage to your opponent equal to the difference. So basically, if your opponent is at 8,000 and you are at 100 life points, you summon him, battle with him, and your opponents obviously go down to the exact same number as you, so you would both be at 100 life points. So that's insanely good, especially for comebacks. I kind of want to run him at only 2, but he could also be 3 as well, I'm not sure. But for the foreseeable future, I'm going to start testing with 2. But for now, we run him at 1 because it's all I have. The 1-ofs and 2-ofs is just because those are the only ones I have at the moment. So I'm still working on getting roughly 4 or 5 cards, probably. So then we move on to Raffy, the Time Lord. She's really cool. If this card battled, inflict damage to your opponent equal to the attack of one monster your opponent controls that battled this card. So say they have a Boarload Dragon on their field, you attack her, you attack with her into the Boarload, they take 3,000 damage. Easy peasy. And actually, if Boarload is somehow a higher attack, or the card is somehow a higher attack, it doesn't say original attack. So if they're a higher attack than that, then they take that damage as well. So it's whatever the attack is when this card attacked into it. Very cool, very cool. And then probably my second favorite, I want to say, is Sandayon. Some of these names get a little crazy, but Sandayon the Time Lord. He is actually a 4,000. That's how these monsters run. They're all 0/0 across the board except for two particular cards. This being one of them. The other 2 are 4,000. So your entire monster lineup pretty much is going to be 4,000, and 0 pretty much across the board. So, alright, and so his effect is if my opponent controls a monster, so not just if I don't have any monsters, but if my opponent controls a monster and I don't, I can normal summon him. And then also, if this card is involved in battle, at the end of the battle phase, inflict 2,000 damage to your opponent. So he's a quick 2,000 damage, combined with Michion and things like that. That 2,000 damage can be very, very good. Get your opponent down to pretty low health, and then swing in with him for the final 2,000. So very, very good card, very clutch card, especially in your, I would say he's probably more along the lines of a win condition for this deck, for sure. Just so you can get that quick 2,000, because you can't keep halving with Michion. Otherwise, they would end up with like 0.50 life points or something, you know? So anyway, that would be it for the 1-ofs and 2-ofs. The rest of these guys are going to be 3-ofs. So 3 of Lazzy, the Time Lord. I really like him just because if he battles, his effect reads, if he battles, then you can shuffle all cards in your opponent's graveyard back into the deck. But he also says if your opponent draws a card, they take 1,000 damage. So this is very much a going second deck. But if you happen to go first, you summon Lazzy. That way you can protect your life points with his abilities of not being able to be destroyed and not taking any damage. But as soon as they draw a card for their turn, they take an instant 1,000 damage. So that's instantly damage on the board, helping you out. And you don't have to wait and let them sit at 8,000. You summon this card and the game starts with them at 7,000 and you at 8,000 pretty much. So that's definitely your starter card if you have to go first, in my opinion. Also a good starter card, or a good going second card, would be Maiden, the Time Lord. He's a very good card. He was actually splashed in some decks, I think I want to say 2018, but it may have been early 2019, but he was a very good card. Everyone was looking into this card at one point or another. He's very good. His effect reads, if he does battle, then you bounce all your opponent's monsters back to the hand, and they take 300 damage for each card returned that way. And I think is it my field as well? Return as many monsters on the field as possible. Yeah. So, but with this deck, you usually only have 1, maybe 2, maximum of like 3 monsters on the board, so it doesn't really matter. And if you're bouncing these guys back to your hand, then it's keeping you from recycling them into the deck, which is their last ability. So every one of your standby phases, you have to return them to the deck. So that definitely helps out with that as well. Even if you get 3 on the board and you use Medion's effect to just bounce them back to your hand, broken, so good. And with this deck being the majority of 1 card per turn, because they do take up your normal summon, I'm going to go ahead and say right now that that is a very good quality to have, especially in the coming days. So say your opponent drops out 15 synchro monsters, you know, something crazy. Medion returns them back to the hand, or the extra deck, since they'd be like synchro and fusions and etc, etc. So he returns those cards back. They take 300 for each one. Then he comes back to the hand, or the deck. Sorry. They're sitting there in their hand with all their Nibiru's, all their Winged Dragon of Raw Sphere modes, and they're like, what can I do against this? I'm used to going against these boards that are 15 cards deep, and they just dropped my entire strategy with 1 card. Like, that's insane. Like, there's gonna be so many people, in my opinion anyway, in the coming days who are gonna have Nibiru's and Winged Dragon of Raw Sphere modes, and maybe even Lava Golems, things like that. That is going to be absolutely insane, because you only have 1 card on the board and you just destroy their entire strategy. It's going to be so good. Alright, moving on. Next we have 3 Zephie, the Time Lord. She's really cool because she can bounce back all your spell and traps to your opponent's hand, I believe, or is it the deck? Into the deck, my correction. And if this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, you can draw 1 card. So she's also draw power. So not only is she draw power, but she also bounces back your opponent's spell and traps into the deck. So very good, very good card. I'd say 2 of your best monsters are most definitely these 2 guys. Definitely. But another really good card that I think is really great is Gabrielle, the Time Lord. We run 3 of this guy. His ability is basically you shuffle all cards your opponent controls as much as possible into the deck. So every card they control, if you can get rid of it back into the deck, it goes back into the deck. And then they draw cards for however many cards they return back to the deck. So the draw cards, not that great. But you are stomping their strategy, making them have to restart, making them have to try again, and hoping they don't draw absolute trash on their redraw. So, very good card in my opinion. It's a little risky, but at the same time, it's not, because you're getting rid of cards on their board and making them have to expend more resources or things like that. So, then we've got 3 Savion. Savion is pretty cool because he's basically, he's the guy who keeps you alive. He's your healer of the deck. If you drop below 4,000, if he battles, bam, you go back up to 4,000, no questions asked. You're at 100 life points, you battle with this guy, boom, 4,000 life points. So good, keeps you alive. Very good for late games and things like that, if they reach late games. But then I have this guy who I'm kind of iffy about, and I don't really know the correct ratio, so I'm sitting at 2 for now. But we have Cephalon, Cephalon, the ultimate Time Lord, which is kind of their boss monster of the deck, but he doesn't really have a protection ability, so he's not the greatest, and to get him out on the board you have to have 10 or more Time Lords in the graveyard. So with how much this bounces back and things like that, you're honestly not going to get too many Time Lords in the graveyard, just from what I've been testing out. If somehow you do get that many, then he's amazing, other than his non-protection abilities. But by the time you get him on the board, you've probably got cards that can protect him anyway. But he's just a little underwhelming as a boss monster in my opinion. So I would definitely not say more than 2. Definitely throw in some different Time Lords in my opinion. But again, that is my opinion, so But what his ability is cannot be normal summon or set, must be special summoned from your hand by having 10 or more monsters in your graveyard. Oh, 10 or more monsters. Oh, that's not as bad as I thought, but still, you run Timelords. That's the main thing. 10 or more monsters in your graveyard and cannot be special by other ways. Once per turn, you can special summon one level 8 or higher fairy-type monster from your hand or graveyard, but its effects are negated. Also, its attack becomes 4,000. So if you get this guy on the board, he's pretty good. But like I said, he's a little underwhelming. He basically just drops you another 4,000 body. Like, he's a 4,000 body, and then he drops you another 4,000 body. That can be very clutch though, so that's why I'm kind of sitting at 2 instead of 3, or 1, because that can be very clutch. You have 2 4,000 bodies. If you bounce back all the cards with Medion, I think his name is. Yes, Medion. If you bounce back all their monsters with Medion and you drop him with 2 4,000 bodies, that's game. So it's very good, but it's a little difficult to get off, so that's why I can't really convince myself to run 3. And then that's going to be it for the monsters. Going on into the spells, we run one for one for the Time Maiden to get her onto our field and get her strategies off so we can get some specific Time Lord monsters in our hand. Then we run one Foolish Burial, the same reason basically, but just for the special summon version of the Time Maiden. So we'll sack Time Maiden and then banish her from grave to special summon a Time Lord monster. Then we run 3 Pot of Duality. This card's really good. I usually hate this card because most decks are special summon oriented, but with this particular deck mainly being normal summon oriented, then this card is absolutely amazing. It lets you look through 3 cards and pick out whichever one's going to help you the best. So that's freaking phenomenal in my opinion. And then we run 1 Upstart Goblin. Just because 1,000 life points isn't that detrimental. You definitely want to get that draw power instead, so you can get some of your combos going or get some clutch cards like that. Upstart Goblin's definitely just a pretty good card in general. It's why it's at 1. And then we run a Monster Reborn, just in case we want one of our Time Lord cards or maybe Time Maiden, something along those lines. That would be absolutely amazing. So that's why we have that card. And if they sack our big boys like the 4,000 Savion, then that's a really good card to have as well. Then we go into the traps. The traps are next. We have 1 Empty Machine. I definitely want a minimum of 2, so I have to get another one of this guy. But Empty Machine sets you off on your protection plays and combo strats. As far as this deck, this is probably your go-to spell or trap card, to be honest. The first time this face-up card on the field would be destroyed by your opponent's card effect, it is not destroyed. Once per turn, you can activate one of these effects. You can discard a level 10 monster and draw a card, which is very good. That also helps you out with getting your boss monster, and it draws you into better cards, so it's draw power and setting you up for your boss monster. And then also, if this card is the only card in your spell and trap card zone, target 1 Time Lord monster in your graveyard, shuffle it into the deck, then you can set 1 Infinite Machine directly from your hand or deck. So that being said, the next card we have is 1 copy of Infinite Machine. Very good card. Also has the same ability of once per turn, if it would be destroyed by a card effect, it's not. So very good. It keeps you kind of going on your strategy there. So this card goes into this card, and then this card's effect is activate this card by sending 1 face-up Empty Machine from your spell and trap card zone to the graveyard. Once per turn, this face-up card cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects, and once per turn you can activate one of these effects. During the main phase, special summon 1 Time Lord monster from your hand. Super dope. Awesome ability. You have an empty field, you summon a Time Lord, and then this lets you special summon another one. So you can get 2 combos going off there, like Medion and, Zephie, I think her name was. yeah, Zephie. So you can get rid of their monsters and then get rid of their spells and traps. So good. And then its second ability is you can target one Time Lord monster in your graveyard, shuffle it into the deck, then you can set one infinite light directly from your hand or deck. So then this card goes into the infinite light. So you can kind of see a theme here. It starts out with 1 ring, then goes into 2, then 3. And then Infinite Light's ability is basically the same as Infinite Machine. You get rid of the face-up copy, and then its ability is neither player can target Time Lord monsters you control with card effects, or return Time Lord monsters from the field to the deck. Once per turn, if you control no monsters, you can special summon up to 1 Time Lord monster from each your hand, deck, and graveyard with different names, ignoring their summoning conditions. So with this card, it's protection, it's special summoning from a plethora of ways, and it's absolutely amazing. But keep in mind that when you activate this and you special summon from hand, grave, and deck, that they will not bounce back. They will not go back into the deck. They will stay on the field. So definitely have a winning strategy in mind when you summon those 2 to 3 cards off of this card. So definitely keep that in mind, because that can get a little clunky. If you summon the wrong ones, then you're setting yourself back a little bit. But yeah, so with that being said, we're moving right along. We run 1 copy of each for now, and then we'll be running 2 to 3 copies of the Empty Machine, to be honest. That way we can get stuff going. But for now, we also run 2 Torrential Tribute, just because you mainly don't have any monsters on the field, and if you do, they have protection. They can't be destroyed. So when your opponent summons a monster, you just Torrential Tribute them, and game over pretty much, because your card is safe and theirs is not. And then we run 2 Storming Mirror Force, for if your opponent does end up attacking you for any reason, whether it's just because you don't have a monster or something along those lines, then which is very rare in this deck, but it does happen. So when an opponent's monster makes an attack or declares an attack, return all attack position monsters they control to the hand. So that's gonna be that. So I definitely foresee this deck being pretty fierce. Definitely going to be something to look out for, especially if someone sees this video and decides to make a video on it themselves. Speaking of any higher rank duelists out there, then definitely going to be something to look out for. Hopefully the word doesn't get out too much before April, because I definitely want to see what this deck can do against things in that certain meta sense, where things are going to be special summoned from the extra deck so much then. I definitely want to see how well this could do then. But definitely looking forward to the coming days where this deck is finished and can maybe combat a lot of the cards and meta choices out there. I'm a huge fan of anything anti-meta, and honestly this feels like the most anti-meta deck I've ever seen in my life. So it's definitely up my alley, and I definitely really love this deck. I don't know why it took me so long to get this deck, to kind of see this deck for what it is. But we're here now, and we're going to be talking a lot about Time Lords in the coming days, I foresee. So thank you guys so much for watching, and thank you guys for hanging out. If you guys would like to join the Ojama family, then all you have to do is hit that subscribe button. And don't forget that we actually have a Patreon going on for as low as $1. You can definitely get some more tiers for $5, $10, things like that. But we're starting out at $1, and that gets you anything as far as our Discord, being able to talk to us, being able to go through strategies with other people who are in the Discord, things like that. So definitely check that out as well. And yeah, so thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you guys for being awesome, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.